think we should start. Now it's already
Right.
60 plus participants. I think they're about to stop. So, okay, I welcome everyone to joining today's panel. It's a very interesting panel that discuss a very hot topic. I think this hot topic has started since last year in March. Regards to NFT, so every other day and every other week you'll see the media covering NFTs. Even our government is talking about it as well, and of course, various news coverage, various events that talk about NFT as well. So today will be an interesting topic, and we have a very interesting panel with us today. First and foremost, and probably looking in terms of who's on the screen right now that's next to my box. We have Juan Kiet, right, from Phillips Capital. So let's let Juan Kiet probably introduce yourself a bit.
All right, I'm from Phillips Capital. I'm a fintech director. I look at the up and coming financial technology that will impact the brokerage, the fund. Phillips Capital is has multiple vertical. So my position is there. Plus, of course, reinventing Poems. I think if you guys heard of it, Poems is a trading app. So I think Poems is out. So we have multiple phases. So this is something that I'm also looking at. Right. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. And we have Yasin. She's from France. And the thing with the French is that art and wine, of course, good wine, is born in their DNA. So if there's no art, there's no France. So yeah. So and of course, he's very passionate about NFT since the day I've known him, right, to now. He has never stopped talking about that. Very passionate into the world of digital assets and cryptocurrency, especially NFTs right now. So without further ado, I'll just let Yasin introduce himself.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for the invite, and thanks Kevin for the quick intro. Yeah, so I'm Yasin Turai, founder of Startup Token. We are a company that is building infrastructure and helping entrepreneurs to adopt Web3 technologies. We have recently developed an NFT marketplace on Polygon called minty.art. And we are now launching a new platform for NFT smart contracts to enable any creator to have their own contract, fully customizable. It's going to be called Mintify. And yeah, I'm very happy to have this conversation. Although we are going through some turbulence in the market, I mean, it's a good opportunity to just like get our eyes off the charts. So happy to be here.
Great. Thank you. And last but not least, of course, we have Lionel from OTech. So Lionel has done some very interesting NFT projects. Recently, we collaborated for a charity event, United Nations High Commission for Refugees, and he helped one of a major pioneer art in Singapore to contribute there. So very interesting stuff that Lionel is doing. So without further ado, Lionel, introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I'm Lionel. I am the founder of a startup. We are a blockchain as a service company. We provide consultation to clients, corporate clients, on how we can use blockchain. And to Kevin's point, it was very exciting. We had a couple of really good traction, right? That we managed to really put a bit of ink into the whole blockchain for good in the mainstream. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so to the audience, how the format is going to be like is that we're going to start the panel proper with a couple of questions and very exciting topics. Towards the end, we'll leave around 10 minutes or so for people we will try to answer some questions, right? So if you look at your Zoom, and for those who are familiar with Zoom, there's a Q&A button, right? So please make sure that you type in your Q&A, your questions on the Q&A button, and then we'll try to attend to that. We'll try to as much as we can within the last 10 minutes and maybe a little bit after that. So I think without further ado and going to wasting further time and all that, let's jump straight into the very interesting topic. And here we are. Okay, the first question, and it's very interesting, right? I think this is exactly what Yasin was saying about, right? About what happened to Luna and all that. So investors believe that NFT market may break away from the ups and downs and about because you see for those who are in the market right now, cryptocurrency is on a down state, right? Especially starting Luna, like Yasin said. And but there are people who believe that the NFT market may break away, right? While it is affected, it may break away. So however, there's still some ties to it. So I think let's comment on this, right? So I'm starting Yasin, since you are very passionate about this. Let's start. What are your comments about this? How does the downtrend in the crypto market is going to affect the NFT market?
Yeah, great question. So I would say that actually we can, if we step back and we look at the trend since the beginning of the year, you have cryptocurrencies that have lost 50% maybe from their all-time high. And on the other side, you have the NFT market that is keep growing up. And there is a certain volatility that is impacting the NFT market. However, it's pretty low. So I think there is a decorrelation between those two asset class. You have on one side, let's say, the fungible tokens, cryptocurrencies, that are going through some kind of as I was saying, turbulence. But the NFT market is pushed by a very strong adoption, and we can see that leading collectibles and leading collections of NFT have skyrocketed, and are, even though the market has lost in the past couple of days or a few days, lost between 20 to 30%. We don't see the same impact on the major collections, or if it happens for certain collection, but for different reasons than what the market is going through right now. So there is a volatility. However, the NFT market is becoming a standalone market and will have its own asset class within this market, okay? Because we're also talking about different type of assets within the NFT collections that are moving different ways. You have, for example, like music that is taking over, booming, or more recently you had the lands, all those NFT representing parcels of land in different metaverses have also skyrocketed. So it will down the line be totally parallel markets and be uncorrelated. So for investors, although this is not a financial advice, I think there will be some opportunities to decorrelate from the fungible tokens by putting some allocation into the NFT assets.
Okay, thanks. That's a great explanation, because I think this is what everyone is interested in, right? Do they get out of the market right now? Do they continue and all that? I think that's one question people's mind. I think that's very good answer from kind of good opinion from your side. So the next one I'll probably ask Lionel the same thing as well, right? What do you feel about the market? Is it going to affect NFT and all that, right?
I think what Yasin has explained is pretty spot on. I think back then, in 2017, when the whole ICO boom, right, came about, we can take some learnings from there, right? People have started figuring what NFT is all about, right? I think the innovation behind it, the utility, what does it really mean? It's very much more driven by the utility behind it, right? So I think the uptake of that is definitely making it a lot more popular, right? Compared to, say, for example, doing a ICO in some sense. So I do see quite a fair bit of decoupling going on, where there isn't a need to raise tokens just to, say, for example, back NFT because of its ability to have it associated with a security, right, or an asset class. For example, in art, right, where I think for a matter of fact, there is that high level of appreciation, and therefore, right, the NFT in itself has that value.
Thank you. And of course, Juan Kit, because I think it comes from Phillips Capital, and I think increasingly so it's seen as an investment, and obviously monitoring the market as well. So from a very traditional, from traditional sector point of view, what do you think about this? Yeah.
Okay, I think that apparently, if you look at some of the NFT projects, right? Of course, there's some recent dip. So a lot of people might think that there is a correlation, but because I'm a fintech director and therefore I monitor and actually get involved in the community quite a bit, right? I think the most prominent one probably both panelists have heard of is, I think, recent drop in Azuki, right? It has, I don't want to repeat the story here, you're interested to read in the community, but there's some background to that. It's not really correlated to the crypto market currently. And then, but if you look at other projects, prominent projects that's out there, PXN, NanoPass, CoolCats, all the long-standing projects which has been delivering value to their holders. I think their value actually kept quite well, which to me quite surprising, right? As a traditional, I think that if I'm losing money from my crypto ad, right, I might be risk off. I might try to, and we're not seeing that. So I think Yasin and say I think perfectly. Another thing that I see is that does it affect the NFT market? And the answer, I think to a certain extent, it does for the new projects. That means projects that are launching in this period, you start to see their floor doesn't move as much. So let's say they launch at 0.1 or 0.15 mean price, which is the normal, currently usual. And you can see that they don't move up that much, right? So one of the prominent project, I think quite well-known project was BBRC, collaboration between a Singapore local person with a Korean artist. So that project minted at 0.12, and right now the floor price is sitting at 1.18, which to me is not really at this point performing and ready. So some impact on the new project, but project that has been relatively proven and long-standing, I think they are holding up well. Actually, so I quite agree that crypto is kind of split into those two, but right now the market is still very young, and we are looking at one sector which is the collectible, right? The PFP collectibles. The art market and the rest also behave a little bit differently. Actually, they are even more isolated from the rest of the crypto movement. Right? So that is maybe it's good news for people who wants to be in crypto and yet are looking for diversifications. Right?
Okay, great, thank you. So thanks for that. I think that gives a very good answer. And again, I would like to add on, right, it's all about timing. Right, everything, in terms of timing, there was a right timing last year. There was a big, obviously wave that then obviously you have some, market disturbance and all that. But, with what being said about use cases and all that, eventually will come on its own, right? No longer just dependent on, what the market is like. Now, the next question is that, tying back to NFT again, obviously for the same topic, is NFT shown to be a hype? Because I think if you read some of the articles, right, so obviously you have your detractors that say that it's a damn hype, it's going to go away, it's going to gone. They say it's going to be gone last year, right? It's still here right now this year. Then they'll say this year will be gone, next year will be gone and all that. So you always have these detractors that always say something about innovation, right? So obviously you have like JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, who said that, Bitcoin is a scam, it's really gone. And then fast forward to current times since 2020 until now, he has been buying Bitcoin, right? So it's always about this kind of topics, right? But same thing about NFT. Some say that it's a hype, it's a scam, because to be honest, there's a lot of fraud going on right now, right? With regards to trade washing, and all kind of funny business, but also legitimate stuff as well, right? And of course, recently, not too good news, like someone who bought those NFTs for a couple of million, and then it's only sold for 100,000, making an massive loss, right? So what is your opinion? Do you think that there is is it meant to, it looks like it to be a hype because the market is actually for NFTs now going down? And do you think there is a real use case for NFT, right? Besides just pure art speculation and fraud based on experiences. So this time around, I'll start with Lionel. Probably Lionel, you can actually share on that.
Yeah, I think to me, hack behind of it, right, which is the smart contract, right? I think that in itself is definitely going to stay, right? I mean, the utility behind how the smart contract can be used, it's endless, right? I mean, I can talk into the options, right? Into using it to do fundraising, for example. In some cases, they use it for certification of authenticity, right? Because of its immutable properties. I think the tech behind having a smart contract, ultimately having that non-fungible token, is here to stay, right? I think it's really about how we can identify the use case in those different industries. So I can speak into the music and the arts. All right, music, for its complexity, there is hope on using NFTs in terms of ensuring management of royalties, for example. It is a complex role, right? But ultimately, we are able to break that science. I think NFTs would be one of the good ways where artists are able to get back what is the amount of time and energy being spent to create the content, right? Instead of going through an intermediary. So I think on that point, there would definitely be a use case, and it'll be something that will even settle, even after the dust settles, right? I think there will be definitely potential of use, would be what I would say. Yeah.
Thank you. Jesse, I'm going to ask you the same thing as well, right? I mean, you have seen a lot of projects, you have involved with a lot of projects, and because you also have an NFT marketplace yourself as well, right? So do you think that this is really going to hype, or there's real use case, right, based on what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think Lionel was pointing it at the right explanation here, because what people need first to understand is that NFT doesn't mean, you know, a JPEG of an ape or of whatever cat or whatever animal, right? This is the first application that everybody has seen or heard about, and so ridiculous prices. But NFT is much more than this, because we need to step a little bit back and take a look at the big picture. What's happening right now is that we're entering into a digital world, right? I mean, we've been entering for 20 years now, but the infrastructure that is getting built to enter properly into this digital world, where there will be property that will be held digitally, needs the right tools to enable people to have this property. And if you think about the current situation before the emergence of NFT, before the emergence of blockchain, digitally, the only way to own something digitally didn't exist, basically. Okay, if you think about everything you have around you that is digital, you realize that it belongs to a kind of platform that is holding on your behalf these assets. So think about videos. You don't own any, you know, there was a time where probably you guys heard about, I don't know in the audience if people, how young people are in the audience, but you know, we had cassettes, the video cassette, or like the audio tapes. You know, we had some kind of way to hold an asset, hold some music, hold some, you know, own these contents. But because we enter into this massive transition towards a digital world, we need new tools. So today, to watch to own something digitally like a video, you can't, because you're gonna buy it from Apple TV or Amazon Prime or whatever, but you're renting it, right? It's the same thing for everything, you know, like Spotify with the music. I mean, you just name it, like your avatar you have today, your representation you have today on the internet is provided to you by a third party. So in order to replicate the same experience, the same properties for that we have with the physical assets, there's nothing better than NFTs. And NFTs is not, as I was saying, just this JPEG of a monkey, but it's basically just like a folder. It's a vehicle. It's something that you can own in your digital wallet and nobody can take it from you, right? So it's a breakthrough. It's an outstanding technology because it enables today to carry a lot of different type of assets. Okay, we talk about those collectibles, but think about a driving license. Think about the diploma. I think in one of our conversations, Kevin, you shared about those diploma that were issued in South Korea as an NFT. This is what we're talking about, right? And because of the immutability of the underlying technology on which these NFTs are living, that is the blockchain. These physically you might lose a diploma that is a printing of your certificate, right? But when it exists on a blockchain, there will be no way for you to lose it. I mean, of course, if you give away your private key, but without going towards this this aspect, but I mean, it gives a sovereignty in a digital world that is unprecedented. So it's a tremendous opportunity, and people should not just like focus on one of the use cases, that is those collectibles that are subject to hypes, to trends, etc., to market forces. But here we are talking about an immense breakthrough that will enable people to own property and rely on new ways to create wealth, basically. So yeah, NFTs are here to stay, and this is just the beginning.
Excellent. I love to hear that. So definitely going to a institution that obviously you are with. There's really from a mainstream traditional financial institution, right? So what do you think of this? Is it a hype? Is it something that you are excitedly looking at, or it's just something that hey, quickly get in some money and all that? What do you think?
Okay. I attended a discussion of NFT some founder, some community, right? So there's a question, right? So the question comes like that. The question is, someone asked the founder, so do you think that NFT is a cash grab, right? So the founder said, of course, but after the cash what matters is what you do after you get the cash, right? So okay, there's of course a lot of scam. People take the money without wanting to actually. There's no intention to actually give the money back or do anything for the people who buy the thing. But there are actually people who try to push the boundary, that try to do things like Web 2 and Web 3 store, right? Try to create their own tokens and things like this. So I believe that there's a true scam out there. People take the money, rob the project, and just disappear, right? Because the problem with NFT, again, is the lack of, okay, from a traditional financial perspective, right? It's not the problem is not with the volatility, because there's a lot of that financial instrument that's equally volatile, right? If you trade futures, I think you know, right? Or if you trade with leverage, I think it's equally very, very volatile. The problem is with the lack of regulations. What rule are we playing this game? Under this guy suppose that there's a lot of project leader that's not docs, right? They call it not docs, and it's not identified. I had under the marketing persona, we don't know who the person is and things like that. However, I think there are rooms for innovation in this area as well, because from the traditional finance perspective, I think Justin Leonard just covered, is that if you take a lot of traditional financial instruments and you start mapping them, right? Some of them can be mapped with fungible tokens, and some are definitely in non-fungible tokens. The adoption definitely is not there as of now because it's new, and finance we move a little bit slower. But as for internally for us, right, we are actively looking at it. We are having an internal blockchain that's built. It's an internal Ethereum that's experimenting with tokenizing funds, tokenizing real estate property, that and testing out, running in parallel with what we are doing, right? So let's say we have some manager doing that, and internally we are looking at smart contract and have a representation of that particular financial instrument as an experimentation, right? To understand technology a bit better. I think Leonard also covered the technology that's behind this, which is a smart contract. Is very, very interesting. I love the whole idea of programming for a decentralized platform, right? It's refreshing because what happened was that I take this smart contract, describe what kind of product I want to put on it. It could be an NFT, right? It could be described as an NFT. Once I put it up and deploy it out there, it's decentralized, okay? And a lot of people can look at it. Actually, the transaction is very transparent. You can look at the contract and see which wallet bought it and things like that. Of course, then the identification wallet have to come into place. So the opportunity lies for the financial institute in several areas. First area is marketplace operations. That means, can we identify people who is operating these projects now? So, Yasin is trying to do a marketplace, right? So he eventually could have a system where we say, okay, or to protect the people who are trying to buy the project, make sure that the project owner is identified, right? At least then they can be held accountable to how the project performs, right? We are not against business failure, because I think startup fails, right? But not outright criminal fraud, right? So the second part is, I think people who are involved in this circle, in NFT investment and things like that. For Philip, we advise retail, if you do not understand this space, don't participate, because it's very wild west, right, for us. Secondly, if you participate, take a sum of money that you can lose, right? Take it as learning. I myself buy NFTs, right? But I don't buy tens of thousands, right? I don't buy, I don't go sweep the floor. They call it sweep the floor, and buy 20 of them, right? I buy a few, get involved in the community, learn the thing, and try to imagine how it would be like if financial instruments can be structured in like NFT or like some of the fungible tokens out there. I think that is a very interesting field for us to step into. And definitely for our end, the technology part is really what we are really interested in.
Thank you. And yeah, that's interesting, right? Because the thing is that your what you say, right, is exactly what MS is telling the public, and not our minister is telling the public as well. It's like, crypto is not for retail. If you're retail, you shouldn't really go into it unless you really know the space and all that. So I think that's probably going to be a stance that financial institutions are going to take on with regards to investing into crypto. But that being said, the next question is pretty much I think related. So all said and done, right? So will NFT ever gain mainstream recognition that it can be a valid investment product, right? Especially a lot of financial institutions are now, while serving clients are going to this space. You got to talk about HSBC, DBS Bank talking about it, and obviously Philips Capital is also exploring this particular space, right? So I'm going to start off this with you, Huan Kiat. What do you think? Do you think it will ever gain mainstream recognition where it's just another financial product that people can invest in, like you invest in your mutual funds and all that kind of stuff? Right? Will it gain recognition?
So the very first thing we need to do is education. Okay, I think BAS being the association, right? I think play an important role, because we bring different players, right? It's not only about Philip, right? What Philip wants to do. It's about the innovation part. What Yasin is thinking about in his marketplace, right? What Leonard is thinking about it from the technology front, and many of the members within the organization, right? So that's the first part. And then we have to help to educate the public so the MS is convinced that the public can be responsible when you do such a thing, because of the volatility of market. They really do understand. I think it's collectively as professional we need to do that. Second part, going forward, I think fungible tokens almost is an easier thing to be mainstream, right? Because you can see immediately stock, everything is coming in place, right? But can NFT be a mainstream financial product? This one currently, I see it as potentially yes, because it represents investment, but there's a slight differentiation to each of these particular tokens representing different rights, right? So it will, okay, I come from, like, this is internal, so we are reimagining how investment is like, right? So when you are a small startup, right, you can have shares with different rights. Remember, it's almost like an NFT, right? You and founder shares, the first round of angel investor coming, you have shares. But as you grow bigger and bigger and bigger, because of organization issues and the administrative issues, okay, now we say, okay, we have common shares. Then we have several classes of special shares. So now, can NFT change how shares or rights within the company is being organized? It's something that we are interested and we are looking into it, because it means that it's just like when you buy a share of a non-listed company, you got to be careful which round of shares are you buying from, because each of them contain different rights, right? I see NFT in the space. They can occupy the space of alternative finance, the early stage finance, and they have application there because I can now classify NFT, and NFT can be moved easily. Okay, so that is the financial aspect. Okay, now we go back to the NFT. You know, we talk about Yasin from France, right? Wine. Can we do NFT of wines? Potentially possible, because a bottle of wine, even from the same vineyard, different year, it means it's different, right? The pricing will change. It depends on the vintage. It depends on if the year is a good vintage or bad vintage, right? So I think for this kind of non-traditional or more alternative financing, I think this NFTs definitely can be. However, in the current stage, which is the PFP, for traditional financial institute, right, the liquidity is the issue, right? You have one or two board A coming through. How are you going to structure the financing for that? How do you sell if your clients say, hey, I need to sell for liquidity? So that is the question that people have, and which I really see innovation is really fast, right? In Web3 space, I really started seeing, I think from early last year, people starting organizing index funds for NFTs, right? So that is a space that we also are watching as well. Right.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Yasin, definitely spot on, right? Your comments on this.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to say here. But what I believe also is important to in order to help the audience, because from the question I see and from like the general sentiment that I hear from people that are not really aware of this technology, I think it is important to just like give a little bit more of insight about what we're talking here, because we hear NFT as a medium to invest. NFT that represents collectibles and a profile picture. So I think there's definitely a big confusion for people, because we englobe NFTs with everything. So what I try to I always try to find the best examples in order to help people to understand this, and it's just a matter of mindset. It's a complicated exercise, because we are all we are molded in a system where we know that stocks are securities and that are held by third parties, are regulated assets, and this is the way. We know that art is a painting, that all sculpture that I can physically appreciate, etc. So we've been molded into these kind of like situation that built our mindset. And now that we are, again, I'm talking about this digital age, we are entering massively into a digital age. We are just here building the right tools in order to capture the value or the properties of all those assets. So if we talk about paintings, people don't question the fact that a canvas that has a drawing on it could be worth millions of dollars. Okay, this is you don't question this, because I tell you this is painted by Picasso and it's worth $100 million. You don't question this. But if you step back and think about the time Picasso painted this, was it really worth that value? And why would I allocate that much money today on this particular asset? These questions, nobody asks them, because again, we are molded and we follow just the common mindset. But people need to understand that in a digital age, there are digital assets with properties that are the same as the properties that we can allocate to physical assets. So a painting used to be carried by a canvas. The 2022 canvas is an NFT, is this digital program that enables to carry the properties that you would find in a canvas we can replicate it today with an NFT. So again, it's one application. I was talking about diplomas before. This is another application. I can embed, certificates that prove that I passed an exam into an NFT. And so the NFT is basically just a folder that exists on a technology called the blockchain. And then you can allocate whatever properties you want. It could be a financial asset as well. If I basically allocate to embed in an NFT, for example, a contract for real estate property, then this NFT will replace basically the paperwork that was signed between two counterparties in the presence of a lawyer. This is like, you don't question that this paper has value because the paper gives you the rights, right? Gives you the access to your property. So today we have exactly the same thing, but in a digital way, and the NFT can help to do that. And the other aspect that needs to be understood also, because we talk a lot about this investment vehicles, like NFTs being an investment. What we need to understand is that the technology that we're using, blockchain technology, enables it very easily to create marketplaces. That's the power of this technology. And we are applying marketplaces for different type of assets today. Okay, Bitcoin was the first of this kind. Okay, it's a cryptocurrency. It's an asset that has the properties of sound money. Okay, and enable people to just agree on a value and transact with it. But that was the first case, and there was like marketplace for Bitcoin, which are called now exchanges. They enable people just to trade this this digital asset. But NFTs, this is what's happening. And this is why we talk about investment, but it's not really investment. It's just that there is this nimble properties of those digital assets to be exchanged very rapidly. And I think the breakthrough that this technology brought is liquidity. Because now I can create, markets. If I can create markets, I can bring liquidity, and then I can turn every asset almost fungible, right? So I hope I help people really to understand why there is like all these elements that are exploding around the concept of NFTs. But basically, this is what is important to keep in mind, is just that this is a new way to carry the properties and rights for any type of asset.
Great, thank you. That was a very great explanation, especially I think for people who are new to this space and just joined the panel. So I think in a nutshell, that explains should they be looking at this as an investment or otherwise, or they should actually learn more, right? So I think carry on to Lionel. So anything you can just add on based on your opinion about this as well?
So mine might be a little bit counter to some of the points that was raised. I think NFT as a technology, whether it becomes a mainstream or the go-to investment to be part of your portfolio, definitely yes, right? Whether it's going to be the mainstream one, actually, I have so within the circle of the NFT, the crypto currency circles, all of them will say yes, right? I mean, we are preaching to the choir, literally. But I think it's also good to note that the mechanism behind, right, how we will propagate NFT is still very much traditional, right? The community building, right? The having a clear value proposition for the NFT itself. All this still falls back to your traditional mindset. Because ultimately, to me, it's about the human behavior of how we want to drive, right, adoption. And ultimately, we are creatures in social psychology that we need to be able to understand and trust, right, the mechanism behind it. And that takes time, right? The adoption to it, the education to it. A lot of the blockchain, like one of Tezos, I've been working with Colin Mouse. His number one priority for Asia Pacific, right, it's really about education, about understanding what blockchain is all about, right? Then the next step will be then identifying a true practical use for it. So within the next couple of years, whether is it going to be the mainstream investment go-to, my thoughts would be yes, definitely for those within the circle, but I think overall, globally, the uptake will definitely be there, but not as strong until the point where the government institutions start recognizing it and provide clear guidance around, say, for example, how do we adopt NFT within the business portfolios? Yeah.
Okay. And this is interesting as well. I mean, the thing is that besides being investment and all that, there's a lot of talks about NFT tying to metaverse, creation of metaverse and all that, right? So about evolution of that. In fact, a message just popped up. The Prime Minister of Japan actually just announced and said that the government is actually having NFT and metaverse as their key, and Web 3.0, of course, right, as their key strategy for Japan, for the country of Japan, right? Just came out. I was just reading this right now. So it seems like, even the government is actually looking into that as well. So I think, what do you think that is it, is NFT tied very closely with the metaverse in the creation of metaverse, or again, I mean, talking to some of these metaverse creators, a lot of it is actually marketing, right? They have not developed anything at all. So what do you think about this whole, story about NFT going to metaverse? So probably Lionel, I'll start off with you right now for this one.
Cool. So maybe just to take reference, I've been working with Smobbler Studios. It's one of the metaverse architect that has been taking a bit of traction. When we are having this discussion, the first point is that metaverse in itself, for example, the sandbox is still in the alpha, or maybe beta has been released. It's still very new, right? The practical use of it, the commercial use of it, it's still works in progress, right? We hear a lot about it. People are building quite a fair bit of it, but it's still new, right? So without committing too much into, say, how it would look like in the future, I think NFT I would imagine it as the ticket into metaverse, right? How is it going to be used? As of now, frankly, at least within the circle that I've been associated with, we haven't really clearly identified what sort of mechanism will work best, right? We also had just a meeting with the Singapore Tourism Board about creating metaverse, right? And ultimately, there is still a roadmap, right, in the next 3 to 5 years. But the biggest question that we have is, have we seen the benefits, right, of having metaverse applied on the physical realm? So I think it's still a big question that I don't think we really have a good answer yet.
Okay, cool. Yasin? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, the metaverse topic is, I think is very, very new, and we don't really know where this is gonna take us. I see it. I would say I see it just as a more immersive user experience, of this digital world we're living in. Right, we're interacting right now on the Zoom metaverse, basically. So yeah, although we are seeing our faces in the room, it's creating an environment within the metaverse where this conversation could happen would just create a more, immersive, I think is the right word, to this experience, just enhancing our interaction, right? Like if you guys, I mean, everybody saw those screenshots of videos of events happening on a metaverse, like gathering, concerts, things like that. It's it was there was a first attempt that was Second Life, Sin City, all those games or gamified experiences, and I don't really know. I would say that I'm a bit scared because I really don't want to spend my life, pretending I'm buying groceries in a digital Red Mart or Amazon.
Which you can't eat. You can't fit in your mouth, right?
Yeah, I'm really not excited about this. I mean, yeah, you say it exactly. I mean, how people probably imagine this, and we talk a lot. We associate that to the Matrix. So I really don't know. I think there will be. I saw also like very, very scary commercials about the metaverse, and like live your life in there. It reminds me a lot of those sci-fi movies. So I don't know if we're really ready for that. I would say that it could be taken as an opportunity, because again, being in this digital age, there's maybe ways to create some kind of assets that have value, and that would be able to capture some kind of value and recreate the same experience as in real life. But this is very early stage, and yeah, I'm curious about it, but I would say at the moment I'm pretty scared. So I hope we're not gonna end up like Ready Player One with goggles and running on a carpet and etc. So yeah, let's see where it goes. But I think right now we should take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. So okay, so I think from given that you definitely are exploring the space of metaverse and how that ties in with what your your blockchain plans are with your institution. So what do you think about this? Right? Is it what is your experience with this approach with metaverse?
Maybe on the institutional side, it's hard for us to think about what's the application within the financial industry if you really want to focus like this. But on the personal side, I'm a D&D player. I started playing when I was in secondary school, so it feels a little bit like that. You are living in a created world, right? So you roll your dice, you have your avatar, the fighter, the cleric, or the magic user, right? So you go through the process, right? Then of course it becomes computer game. Before that was it's like few of us talking, right? Get together in the room, and actually right now, it has evolved to a stage where it's Zoom. And the dungeon master actually create the dungeon, runs the game, and people participate. So it's more and more game-like, right? So on Yasin's point about Matrix, so I love Matrix as well. So I always thought, that's 10, 20 years ago, I always thought that, you look at athletes perform, right? I just thought that, how would you feel if you're in the body of, let's say, Usain Bolt running the 100 meters, okay? So if metaverse can create the kind of experience that you cannot get just in normal day life, I thought is something interesting. The second part, of course, can it be enhanced learning? But I thought that is a little bit more evolutionary than than truly totally different. So at this point, I just think that it is a great idea. But what is the implementation? Because it's not only about creating the digital space, right? It's about how do you tie in with hardware. But right now, do you really want to have this big goggle and just walk around like this? It's not really that. So that is the question that I have. How will the technology go to the next phase? I mean, the perfect way to deal with that is that you have, just like Matrix, right? You have a plug at the back of your neck, and you just plug it in. Then you gain that kind of experience that people spend 10 years of doing, and immediately you truly understand. Another great idea that someone was mentioning is that can we, let's say a CEO of a company, he's so tired for time, right? Can we have a metaverse where he exists, where we can always go to him and consult him and say, hey, if this situation happened, what will you do? But does it really need a metaverse? You don't need, right? Because it's about machine learning, AI again. So at this stage, I feel that metaverse should be more experiential. So you want to experience, the senses should be engaged. But apart from the digital part, the world part, I understand, where the other part is going to come in. Because otherwise, how do you simulate the right smell, the right experience, the feeling, and all this kind of stuff. So I think still a gap. I would do agree with Lionel that it is kind of feel like alpha at this stage. We are still trying to brainstorm collectively, right? What we'll do with this technology, or what is the way forward.
I think even the definition of metaverse, right, to be honest, is kind of like loosely used in many different scenarios. I was invited to be part of a organizer for a virtual expo, right? It was labeled as metaverse, but when you actually look at it, it was just a fancy Zoom, right? Where actually it's just isometrics. It's basically, you can click, it's not very immersive, but in definition, they believe that this is metaverse, right? Because you are able to experience going to different locations, you can go to different levels. I mean, there are even companies such as Remo that promises this experiential engagement, right? Where you can go to different levels, where you're actually within a building. It's really on how they creatively identify the floor space, right? So to me, even down to the definition of metaverse is currently a question mark, right? There isn't really a clear practical explanation as to what metaverse is supposed to be, right? I think that's how new we are.
Yes, definitely. I mean, this is really the beginning of the curve, or whatever, your beginning of the straight line and all that. Because I think it's a very, like I say, it's a very good word to use, which is why even the Prime Minister of Japan actually uses it, and obviously, it has been covered by our own government as well in Singapore and other governments as well, right? And of course, you got HSBC saying, "Hey, we got into the metaverse." You're talking about JP Morgan doing that as well. So the news goes on and on. You have your top institutions, you have governments, you have whatever, right, getting into the metaverse. So it becomes this particular big topic, and people are watching it right now, see how it develops. Okay, so in view of time, we have only 5 minutes more before the panel ends. So I think probably we can actually try to answer some questions. There are 3 that is actually in the Q&A. The first one would be pretty interesting, because I think Yasin, we have also talked about the real estate portion, right, to actually represent physical items and things like that. So I think the question is about asking, if it's fractionalized in 100 copies of the NFT, how does it relate to legalities issued by the land and all that? Do you want to take this particular question?
Yeah, so the technology enables to recreate or let's say would enable a very smooth way to fractionalize a piece of land and identify who owns what. However, whatever happened with this technology, it doesn't prevent from complying with whatever rules apply to this type of assets. So the NFT could be a way to fractionalize and to materialize this contract, real life contract. However, you would need to stick to the proper regulation until government, landlord registry, lawyers, etc., would switch to blockchain infrastructure, and then you don't need to replicate whatever you would do on the blockchain, and using NFT won't need a backup. Because right now they just co-live, right? Because it's not recognized. Like as long as NFTs are not legally recognized as as the infrastructure and as the digital assets to represent property, then it won't really have a face value and a real sense of ownership. So the technology would enable that really smoothly in a couple of line of codes, basically to do that. It's just that we don't yet have governments and all the incumbents, connected on a blockchain.
Thank you.
Kevin, can I add to that?
Sure.
What Yasin is seeing, right, is also what I think for the FI, we want to, let's say, adopt tokenization, right? the problem sometimes is not about technology. Technology is there. Of course, I think several questions here alluded to security on this. Okay, that is technology problem. But it's also the current regulatory environment. For example, the regulator might say that for unit trust, you definitely need a trusted. There's no other way. You cannot rely on the blockchain being immutable ledger, right? You actually don't need a trustee, right? But because of that reason, then because regulation is being come in, some of the things unfortunately cannot be completely be done. The full potential, let's say, of what I'm trying to say, full potential of technology cannot be realized because you still have legacy regulation that we have to follow. We still have a lot of other stuff that we don't follow. Right? Very, very similar situation in terms of this land thing, right? We're so used to that piece of paper, so we got to stick with the piece of paper.
Yeah, until otherwise, when everything is all blockchainized. Yeah, until blockchainized.
That's right.
Yeah. Lionel, do you have any experience to share on this, right? On asset back kind of NFTs, right? Be it real estate or something else, right? Yeah.
I do actually have a an interesting project which is in Bangkok. We have a property that we've kind of like split the tokenization. So for you just basically need to own the NFT and you own a piece of a real estate in Bangkok, right? It's near the university and whatnot. But I think the questions to me alludes to one thing, which is again back to the whole spirit of what NFT is all about. It's about decentralization, right? And to me, it's really again attesting to what I was trying to speak to earlier. It's really about the human behavior, right? About the ability to trust a system. To me, when I say system, it's not only about the technology behind it, but even say, for example, the governing bodies. Yes, I can have an NFT that alludes to saying that I own a piece of land, but ultimately they will ask the question, which is the postmodern part of it, which is if it comes to a point where there is contention, who is going to help me, right, make that governance? And that again falls back to this whole central body. So I think that to me, it's really about the education part and to adopt this as a whole, right, for now. Right, I think there's a couple of obstacles, but in a very ideal world, right, having this intermediary governing board away and having it decentralized to everyone else, that'll be fantastic because it's really reducing that length that's necessary to reach the end goal.
Okay, great, thank you. Unfortunately, we're coming to an end. I think the second question was actually kind of answered by the third question in a way about security and all that. So it's very long text. So, but I think if you can just kind of paste the text and read about it. So probably just to answer the last one about from Teddy's call regards to Web3 community. So I think just follow BAS, Blockchain Association Singapore. We have various webinars, various meetups on the topic of Web 3.0, NFT, metaverse, and all that. So yeah, feel free to follow us on our YouTube or even on our social media, and you'll see a lot of updated events coming up. So I think, just follow this on that. So I think thank you everyone for attending the webinar today, and of course very much thank you to our very esteemed panel for sharing their experiences, their thoughts and their opinions, which is always very good because they are in the space, they are practitioners, they are not your university professors that probably read it from a book and all that. These are actual practitioners over here, right? And they are very people who didn't just go and tell, hey, go and buy this token and buy that token. These are people who are actually in the space, they understand what's going on, very balanced view, and this is what BS hopes to portray to the community, right? To learn the right things and all that, and not just to funny people who actually publish on Facebook and say, come on, I'll make you a millionaire the next day. It is not going to happen. It's never going to happen. So never listen to those crap out there. So yeah, thanks so much for attending, everyone, and hope that you can join us in our next webinar, Rick's Education webinar. This is going to be a series that's coming up. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Have a very good afternoon. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kevin, for organizing.
Thanks.
And thank you, BAS. Right?
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.